You've been taught to imagine heaven and hell as destinations, two remote addresses stamped in gold or burned into stone, waiting at the end of the road like opposing airports. One gate swings open, the other slams shut. Simple, final, comforting. If you're certain, terrifying. If you're not. But what if the map is inside out? What if those places don't wait at the end at all? What if they begin now, as textures of consciousness you carry every day, pooling into a shape that eventually becomes a home you can't help but choose? Think about the last time a thought hijacked you with urgency. Not the clean urgency of a deadline, but the kind that arrives like a siren in your chest. Act now, or you'll lose everything. Notice the taste of it. A metallic edge in the mouth, a tunnel closing down around the eyes, a lurch in the gut that says your entire value is on trial this very second. That state makes promises. It swears that relief is just one click, one jab, one cutting remark away. And for a minute, it feels like oxygen. Then the aftertaste hits, smaller, meaner, hooked. You didn't choose, you were driven. Now compare that with something quieter that sometimes rises unannounced. Not sentimental warmth, not moral theater, but a clear invitation that preserves your freedom even as it nudges you forward. Call your father, tip the barista a little extra, and say nothing. Apologize without explaining. It doesn't demand, it offers. If you follow it, there's relief without residue. No spike, no hangover, just alignment like a joint sliding back into place. Two signals, two trajectories. One constricts the field of view until you're a clenched fist. The other opens the lens until you remember you have hands. If you track them for a day, you'll see they don't merely change mood. They alter what you notice, what you want, the stories you tell about what's happening. They tune your appetite. They decide which rooms of the mind you furnish and which rooms you lock. And the longer you inhabit one signal, the more the world presents faces and facts that match it. Cruelty seems normal, where contempt sets the thermostat. Mercy seems obvious, where humility lights the hall. Imagine, then, that the afterlife isn't a courthouse but a consequence. Imagine that place is a mirror for state, the way a melody naturally belongs in certain keys and not in others. If you love to dominate, would you enjoy breathing an atmosphere built from mutual care? If you delight in honest help, would a neighborhood of hidden knives feel like home? You don't shove a magnet into the wrong tray of filings and hope it stays. You let it find its line. What if death is the moment when pretending stops working and the interior weight of your life takes over? That idea offends something in us because we want exceptions when the mask is flattering, and we want pardons when it's not. But there is a severe kindness in the principle. If a person is most themselves when they're scheming to exploit, then the most merciful thing may be to let them live where that is the local weather, where everyone is playing the same game and no one is deceived. If a person is most alive while quietly serving, then joy is a landscape made from that practice, where gratitude is the air and defensiveness can't breathe. This is where the old icons of pitchforks and halos collapse into something stranger and more intimate. A story about attention and affection, not the affection you post, but the affection you feed when no one is watching. What if your daily micro-choices are not point scoring, but architecture? Every time you choose the clean motive over the flashy one, you lay a beam. Every time you nurse a petty victory, you remove a window. Eventually, a house emerges around you, not because a judge approved the blueprint, but because you built it. Here's the uncomfortable part. You can't outsource that construction. You can outsource information, techniques, rituals, styles. You can even outsource reputation, but you cannot outsource desire. And desire is the architect. It will keep drawing the plan you secretly prefer, then hand it to your hands. You can, however, retrain desire by pairing it with truth, practical, unsentimental truth. That pairing is the hinge of everything that follows. So, no, this isn't a travelogue to somewhere else. Not yet. This is about the gravity you're carrying, how it forms, how it strengthens, and how it starts bending the world toward a final fit. If that sounds abstract, bring it down to 15 minutes. Choose one conversation you're dreading. Strip out the lines you are going to use to win. Strip out the lines you are going to use to look good. Keep the lines that are necessary and kind. Then deliver them without a drum roll. Notice what happens to your posture afterward. Notice the room. That feeling is a small proof that states become places. If you've been living for applause, this will sound like a sentence. It isn't. It's a jailbreak. The world won't always give you a fair stage, but it will let you choose your motive. And motive is the door you walk through at the end. Today we map the house from the inside. What heaven and hell feel like before they have walls. Why the middle space, the sorting ground, makes a terrible kind of sense. And how to start practicing the only skill that belongs in both worlds, becoming someone who can breathe where love is the law. Start with the single line that rearranges every hallway of the mind after death. You go to what and whom you love most. Not the costume of love. Not the slogans of love. The center of it. The affection that directs your choices when the performance stops. Call it your ruling love, your deepest preference, your secret gravity. Most of us don't know it with precision. We catch it by its wake. But those wakes are everywhere. In what you justify without thinking, in who you quietly imitate, in the emotions you protect, and the ones you starve. If this sounds mystical, imagine a lifelong playlist, songs you choose without checking charts. Imagine that playlist writing your stride, your bedtime, your advice to a friend. Now imagine that at the end of life, your earbuds come out, and the room you enter is the room where your playlist is the house music. You meet the people who move to it. Your shoulders drop because you recognize the beat, or you choke because you can't stand it. Either way, you can't pretend. You are relieved into your proper climate. Why does this idea generate both fascination and backlash? Because it scans as relentlessly fair. We prefer loopholes that reward belonging to the right tribe, signing the right sentence, or having the right drama before the credits. This model refuses theater. It measures by the slow arithmetic of habit, what you practiced wanting. Practice is confronting because it's democratic. Anyone can do it, and no one can fake it for long. It also means each small choice matters more than we admit. Fate isn't hovering in the clouds. It's in how you replied to that text, how you framed that story, how you handled the little yes that cost you nothing, and the big no that cost you pride. But fairness isn't cold. There's mercy coded in the physics. A person who loves harmful power won't be forced into a community where that love suffocates. A person who loves mutual care won't be dropped into a neighborhood where kindness is weakness. The fit is not a prize, it's mercy. The cost is that you cannot keep loves that contradict the air you want to breathe. Heaven doesn't negotiate its chemistry. Neither does hell. You get the atmosphere you prefer. If you've ever felt your mind split between two scripts, one that narrows and one that opens, you've tasted the framework. The narrowing script bargains, threatens, deceives. It feels clever and starved at once. The opening script is simpler and stronger. It makes room for correction without humiliation, for responsibility without self-annihilation. Follow either script, and it multiplies itself. The trick is that the narrowing one often wears urgency like a uniform. It feels like necessary speed when it's really panic selling you plastic relief. The opening one moves slower, but its decisions don't collapse at contact with reality. All of this collapses into a sobering sentence: You won't want a heaven you didn't practice. And if that stings, it's meant to, not to shame, but to wake. If your real joy is being secretly superior, the landscape of mutual delight will bruise you. If your real joy is quietly lifting others, the economy of exploitation will scorch your lungs. The good news is that practice is available now in the low-stakes corners of a Tuesday afternoon, long before any final geography makes your preferences permanent. So the question isn't which group will accept me later, it's which love am I rehearsing now? That question is ruthless because it cuts through our favorite alibis, but it's also the door to a different kind of freedom, the kind that doesn't depend on approval or adrenaline. If a state becomes a place, then every honest motive is a brick in the road home, and every petty triumph is a brick in a maze you'll eventually have to walk alone. This section isn't here to scare you straight. It's here to show you where the levers actually are. Your future isn't waiting behind a cloud gate. It's accumulating in your reflexes. You can't fake the center, but you can re-educate it, one pairing of good plus true at a time. And when that pairing becomes a habit, the idea of heaven stops sounding like propaganda and starts sounding like oxygen. The rest of this script is about learning that air before it's the only air available. If place follows state, then what we casually call heaven and hell are neighborhoods built from inner weather. That's not poetry, it's a claim about causation. In this model, the external isn't primary, it's expressive. A community is a choreography of shared loves. Its architecture is how those loves organize language, customs, priorities, humor. When your interior life resonates, you fit. When it clashes, you can't stand the noise. Think of tastes you never had to force. Some people walk into a room and see status. Others see faces. Others see tasks. The room is the same, but the felt reality is different because the interior filter is different. Now stretch that to a world where filters no longer hide behind performance. If you are nourished by someone else's disadvantage, you will prefer rooms where advantage is the game. If you are nourished by the good of another, as if it were your own, you will prefer rooms where shared joy is the norm. The scenery follows suit. This turns judgment into self-revelation. You are not sent where you loathe the air. You drift toward where your breath is easiest. Ease is not moral proof. Many harmful loves can feel easy to people trained by them. But ease does reveal preference. Preference reveals allegiance. Allegiance reveals the kind of stories you tell about reality, and those stories become the grammar of your chosen place. Crucially, place here isn't a static postcard.
It's dynamic because love acts.
Love creates patterns of association. Communities form at the speed of recognition. Oh, you want what I want for reasons I recognize. That recognition is lucid joy for the generous and clean terror for the predatory. Why terror? Because where mutual care is the culture, hidden knives stay sheathed or are surrendered. If your identity depends on them, you cannot breathe. You will leave of your own accord. If you're picturing binary gates, soften the image. The spectrum is wide and people grow, but direction matters. Imagine two spirals. One broadens your powers of perception by linking honest thought with unselfish intent. The other narrows them by locking cleverness to appetite. Both spirals feel coherent from the inside. Only one stays coherent when exposed to other people's flourishing. That difference, subtle at first, becomes definitive over time. There's a beautiful severity to the mechanism. The universe refuses to lie about what you love. You can memorize 1,000 sentences about goodness and still crave domination. The longing will find its level. Likewise, you can be bad at slogans and still hunger for the well-being of others. That love will find its people. This dissolves the superstition that alignment is for the gifted. It's not, it's for the willing. Here's where many of us flinch. What about the mixed person? The one who loves to help and loves to be admired for helping. Welcome to the human condition. The model doesn't expect purity. It expects clarity. Mixed motives are the raw material. The work is to pair your better loves with true ideas. Then let practice burn off the theater. You don't convince yourself with speeches. You train yourself with choices. That training changes what you notice, and what you notice changes what you want. Want reshaped by truth becomes desire that can live anywhere love is the law. If state builds place, then the most strategic investment is invisible. The daily alignment of intent and honesty. Nobody applauds it. Nobody trends it, but it compounds. A year of invisible alignment changes the rooms you can stand, then the rooms you can bless, then the rooms that appear when you arrive. If that sounds mystical, try this. Spend 30 days telling the whole truth kindly in low-stakes contexts. By the end, watch which invitations feel magnetic and which feel nauseating. That nausea is your interior world rejecting a place that no longer fits. So states create places. That means two things. 1, we are all already en route. 2, course corrections today. Prevent brutal adjustments later. If you've ever said, "I'll deal with it when I get there," this is the warning on the door. You're already there in miniature. Expand the miniature with care. Between the life you know and the neighborhood you finally love, there is a clarifying interval. Call it a world of spirits, a midway, the honest room, but exists for mercy. Here, the masks that were necessary or convenient don't stick. Everything you rehearsed wants to unify your favorite loves, looking for ideas that justify them. Your neglected loves looking for ideas that finally protect them. If you built your life on appearing generous while guarding contempt, the two resist fusion, the strain becomes obvious. If you built your life on real care supported by clear thinking, the union is swift and clean. This is not a courtroom with a waiting line. It's a laboratory where mixed elements either bond or separate. The bonding matters because stable identity requires coherence. Goodness without clear thought melts into naivete. Sharp thought without goodness hardens into predation. The midway ensures you don't enter a community with a split center that will collapse under its own contradictions. Painful, often, but the pain is calibrating. Like waking a numb limb, sensation returns, and with it, choice. What does clarifying look like? Imagine your favorite rationalizations appearing without special effects. No music, no audience, no threat. Just the plain mechanics, the story you tell to make cruelty seem prudent. The data you omit to preserve a flattering image. The inner bargain where you turn a human into a prop. In the midway, those bargains are visible from both sides, yours and theirs. Some people vomit out of shock. Others laugh with relief because the lie was heavy. The point isn't humiliation, it's accuracy. You'll also see the loves you thought were small unfurl their wings. The unnoticed faithfulness of washing the dishes when no one would care. The hard apology you made without rescuing your image. The restraint in a moment when a sharp sentence would have landed and left a bruise. These aren't trinkets. They are proof that your heart can bear the climate of mutual good. They bind tightly with true ideas about dignity, about limits, about the value of another's joy, and the union creates an identity that can live where love is the custom. People fear this interval because they imagine a grand tribunal tallying sins on a cosmic scoreboard. It's both more personal and more precise. Nothing you loved is lost. It's sorted. Nothing you hated is forced on you. It's exposed. Your allies in this sorting are the very truths you avoided when they were inconvenient. Now they become your surgeons, removing what doesn't belong. If your pride was your god, this surgery feels like death until you breathe for the first time without it.
Is there time in the midway?
Experience suggests there is sequence without clocks, progress marked by integration, not hours. Some move quickly, like a puzzle clicking together. Others stall, because a cherished lie refuses to release. Help is real. You are not alone. But help does not rewrite your center. It reveals and strengthens what's already aligned. The more you practiced alignment on Earth, the smoother the union here. The less you did, the more work remains, and none of it can be outsourced. The gift of this space is its gentleness with truth. It doesn't brutalize. It doesn't flatter. It treats you like someone who can handle seeing what you built. If that prospect terrifies you, take the terror as guidance, not doom. It's telling you where to practice next. Pick one rationalization you use often and retire it in public. The first time will burn. The second time will sting. The third time will feel like clean air. By then, the midway will already live in your mornings. If heaven and hell are opposed climates, why insist on one ultimate governance? Because order requires a single physics. Opposites create balance, but only under a common law. Otherwise, one side floods the system. Translate that into experience. If reality didn't run on coherent rules, the worst loves would metastasize unchecked, and the best loves wouldn't have stable ground to grow. Equilibrium isn't a truce between equals. It's the condition in which freedom can be real. Freedom here means meaningful choice among genuine alternatives. Remove equilibrium, and choice becomes compulsion disguised as consent. The loudest appetite wins. Keep equilibrium, and the person can orient toward what they actually value. Both options have pull, but neither kidnaps the will. The governance behind this isn't micromanagement. It's the consistent maintenance of conditions under which the interior can reveal itself without coercion. This is where a harsh misconception collapses. The idea that the universe delights in trapping you with technicalities. In a one-governance reality, technicalities don't rule. Tendencies do. You aren't caught by an obscure regulation. You are gently but firmly led to face what you prefer. If your preference harms, the governance prevents that harm from devouring everything. If your preference helps, the governance protects the delicate space where help can flourish without being weaponized. Why not split the rule? One God for each pole, because then conflict would be existential, not functional. Two sovereign laws would fight over first principles, and the fabric would tear. Instead, you get a single law that applies to both sides. Every act has consequences. Every love builds a world. In that law, even the domain of destructive love is permitted only where it does not annihilate the possibility of return or the existence of communities that refuse it. That permission isn't endorsement, it's containment. Practically, this means the worst you can love is never ultimate. It can dominate your private world. It can corrupt circles. It can scar, but it cannot rewrite the code. This should do two things in you: make you sober about your choices, and make you fearless about the world. Sober, because nothing you indulge is free. Fearless, because nothing you face is sovereign. The law behind both poles is not sentimental. It is good. Goodness is not soft. It is precise. The most astonishing implication is mercy for fit. Even those who love harm are spared the suffocation of living where their love cannot breathe. They are not asked to pretend. They are simply restrained by the same physics that prevents anyone from turning reality into a private hunting ground. If you've ever wished your worst impulses would be impossible to act on, this is your wish answered at scale. The universe says no where your freedom would become someone else's prison. Equilibrium also explains the stubborn stability of ordinary life. You will never eradicate temptation. You will never eliminate the quiet nudge toward good. Both remain to preserve the arena where love becomes choice and choice becomes identity. If that frustrates you, why won't the bad just stop? Remember that a world with only one pole would not be a world for persons. It would be a wind tunnel. The dignity of being human is that you can steer. So one governance, two poles. Not a myth of battling deities, but a single order holding the ring for a million small fights. The kind where victories look like listening and defeats look like winning the argument and losing the person. If you want a sign that this law already runs through you, consider how often your pride is silenced by a child's trust, or your hurry is cut in half by someone's grief, or your cynicism melts against a kindness you didn't deserve. The same gravity that keeps stars in orbit keeps rooms from collapsing when one honest sentence is spoken. You can call that physics, you can call it providence. Either way, it is one. If the grand map is true, you should be able to test it in a coffee line. You can. Start with two diagnostics you can run in 5 seconds: the freedom test and the aftertaste test. The freedom test asks, does this impulse protect freedom, mine and theirs, or does it corner, coerce, or humiliate? Heavenward signals preserve freedom even while urging action. Hellward signals threaten or trap. The aftertaste test asks, how will this feel 15 minutes after I do it? Heavenward moves leave you cleaner and quietly stronger. Hellward moves leave you jangly, empty, or hungry for the next hit. Layer 3 more checks for fine-grained clarity. Urgency profile. Healthy urgency is focused and proportional. Toxic urgency makes everything absolute. If your life is constantly now or never, something predatory has the mic. Language tone. Does the inner voice offer or accuse? Offers can be firm. Accusations drip. Audience hunger. Would you still do this if no one knew? If the answer is no, you've discovered theater. Track these for a week. Do not chase perfection. Chase accuracy. Note patterns. I get coercive when I'm tired. I lie by omission when money is involved. I confess easily but never repair. Patterns are tutorials. Each one points to a practice that would change your climate. If you coerce when tired, practice deferring non-urgent decisions after 9 p.m. If you omit for money, practice one full disclosure this week that costs you a small sum. If you confess without repair, practice fixing one consequence for each apology. This is not moralism, it's architecture. You are installing beams. You will want an audience. Don't give yourself one. Nothing decays alignment faster than applause. Praise cements identity around display, and display bends motives toward image management. If you need accountability, pick one person who loves truth more than your comfort. Tell them the practice, not the performance. Let them ask, what did you actually do when the pressure hit? Also, beware of noble counterfeits. There is a hellish version of responsibility that disguises control. It says, if I don't fix this now, the world ends. It bullies compassion into intrusion, truth into cruelty, excellence into perfectionism. Run your impulses through the freedom test. If your help removes someone else's agency, you're not helping, you're annexing. Heaven doesn't annex. It invites, equips, and lets go. On the other side, beware of lazy mercy. You can use kindness to avoid the labor of clarity. If your compassion leaves people confused, you may be protecting your comfort more than their good. Pair goodness with truth. Say the hard sentence without the hard tone. If you can't find the sentence, write it first. If you can't find the tone, wait 1 hour. Mercy without clarity feels good in the mouth and bad in the world. 3 micro practices will accelerate discernment. Practice 1. The motive pause. Before a charged action, breathe and name your motive in 1 sentence. If you can't name it, you're not ready. If you name 2 motives, pick the better and align the action with it. Practice 2. The invisible good. Do one helpful thing each day that no one can trace to you. This starves the addiction to image and feeds the love of actual benefit. Practice 3. The clean no. Say no early and kindly when an ask conflicts with your better love. Don't over-explain. Over-explanation is a bribe for approval. Within 2 weeks, your perception sharpens. You start catching the opening seconds of a hijack when the lie promises relief before you act it out. You notice how contempt recruits your wit to humiliate instead of illuminate. You notice how humility doesn't weaken your presence. It steadies it. The map becomes local. Heaven and hell stop being cartoons and start being textures. The constricted hallway versus the clear room. You will fail often. That's part of training. Failure isn't a verdict, it's data. Use it to adjust practice, not identity. If you want a litmus sentence for today, use this: I will choose the action that remains good when no one is watching, and remains true when everyone is talking. Say it quietly before the meeting and after the call. Watch what it does to your spine. If this life is rehearsal for a climate where love is law, then the skill worth learning is simple and demanding. Pair a goodwill with a true idea until they walk like one person. Goodwill without truth is naive. Truth without goodwill is a weapon. Practice makes them one. That unity is the signature of a soul that can breathe anywhere. Mercy reigns. Start low and local. Pick a relationship you quietly use for self-affirmation, someone whose admiration you harvest or whose dependence makes you feel necessary. Choose a single behavior that confirms the pattern, then retire it publicly. Say, I've been doing X because I liked feeling important. I'm stopping. Here's what I'll do instead. The confession is not the hero. The replacement is deliver it without ceremony. If they praise you, shrug it off. If they doubt you, thank them. Then do the replacement so consistently that it stops being about you. Next, attack your private vanity. Choose one domain where you perform virtue for credit: public generosity, trendy conviction, spiritual fluency. Remove the audience. Give money that cannot be traced. Serve where rank is unknown. Study without posturing the highlights. Vanity will scream that you're wasting capital. Let it scream, you are changing the oxygen mix. The craving for image oxygen will weaken. When it's quiet enough to hear, you'll discover which acts of good you actually love when applause is impossible. Those, not the posted ones, are the beams that travel. Third, practice repair. Not apology alone, repair. Apology is cheaper than we think. It spends words to buy self-image. Repair spends time and resources to buy benefit for the other. Find one harm you caused that has a lingering cost. Pay it down. If you cannot fix it, build something equivalent for someone else without telling the story of your repentance. You will feel weaker at first. Then you will feel honest. Honesty is load-bearing. You can hang a future on it. Fourth, train your attention. Attention is desire's scout, left feral. It hunts for novelty and flattery. Trained, it hunts for openings to do effective good. Give it a route during any conversation. Ask silently, what would benefit this person in a way they can receive? Not what will impress them. Not what will prove you right. What will benefit them? Often the answer is, listen. Sometimes it's clarify. Occasionally, it's disagree kindly. Rarely, it's leave. The more you ask, the more your attention becomes a servant instead of a thief. Fifth, practice joy in another's success. This is the hardest exercise for proud hearts and the sweetest for healed ones. Start with someone safe. Celebrate them specifically in a way that costs you visibility. Then graduate to someone who threatens you. Speak well of them, accurately, in a context where it helps them and invisibilizes you. Your pride will call this self-erasure. It isn't. It's proof you've stopped breathing applause as air. The ability to enjoy someone else's rise is the passport stamp of a person who can live where love expands like light. These practices aren't commandments. They're physics lessons. They reveal what reality rewards with coherence and what it rejects with fracture. Over months, you'll notice that your taste changes. Cruel jokes lose their voltage. Flattery sounds thin. Sudden money feels less exciting than steady usefulness. You'll still fail. You'll still posture. You'll still want the wrong thing on Thursdays. But the reversion will feel like a headache in a room that used to smell fine. That headache is grace. Your nose works now. Carry one sentence into tomorrow. May my love be strong enough to act, and my truth be gentle enough to be received. If you build around that, the place you're moving toward will feel like home when you arrive, and the most astonishing discovery waits there. You didn't earn the air, you learned to breathe it. We started with a provocation, heaven and hell, as states that become places along the way. You saw why the model refuses theater. It doesn't care for costume. It cares for center. The center is revealed by practice, those repeated pairings of honest thought and generous intent that eventually teach desire a new language. Desire then becomes the quiet architect of the only home you'll ever love. If that sounds severe, listen again for the mercy in it. The universe will not trap you in a climate you cannot bear, nor will it indulge loves that would starve other people of air. It gives you time. It gives you a midway where half-built loyalties can heal or be let go. It gives you equilibrium so the stakes remain real and the choice remains yours. It gives you help that refuses to flatter your illusions and refuses to despair of you. It gives you a map with only one hard rule: you must become what you want to keep. That rule terrifies the part of us that feeds on exception. It liberates the part of us that is tired of bargaining. If you are sick of living for the camera, there is a door. If you are exhausted by cleverness that leaves you lonelier, there is a bench. If you are addicted to small victories that cost you the person, there is a different contest with different trophies. A clean aftertaste, a steady voice, the ability to rejoice when another is lifted. These are not trinkets. They are the currency of the world you hope exists. So what do you do today? 3 steps, simple and difficult. First, choose one relationship and remove one performance from it. Replace it with one unseen benefit. Second, choose one rationalization and retire it under light. Replace it with clear words and a small repair. Third, choose one domain where you depend on applause and practice invisibility until your lungs stop asking for it. When they do, you'll know you can breathe someplace larger. Do not wait for a ceremony to begin. You're already in rehearsal. The house you're building is not elsewhere. It is the look in your eyes when you apologize without a legal defense. It is the refusal to turn truth into a knife. It is the decision to let another's joy arrive without shuffling to the center of the frame. Every beam you set today will stand when the weather changes. Every brick you place quietly will be there when the roof appears. If you fear that you've built badly, hear the last mercy the architect can learn. Desire is plastic under pressure and time. Train it and it will trade its sugars for bread. Practice and the hand that once reached for spectacle will reach for service without pain. Then a strange thing happens to fear. It doesn't vanish. It changes species. It becomes reverence, the only kind of fear that belongs in a world where love is the law. Reverence is fear that protects what is precious instead of running from it. Protect that in yourself and in others, and the climate will meet you halfway. One day, the miniature will be enlarged. The signals you learn to name will no longer arrive as whispers competing with traffic. They will be the weather, and you will not be surprised, because you will have breathed it before. That is the promise hidden inside the severity. You don't wait for heaven. You practice it until it is impossible to mistake. When someone asks you, near the end, what you think happens next, you won't need cosmology to answer. You'll point to your chest and say, "I've been going there my whole life."